I caught you mid eye rub. Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 95, I believe, of Bandwidth and Banter, and episode 7 of Legacy of Loremasters. I'm Stormy D, your host, and that right there is my co-host, Druid IRL. Thank you, Druid, for coming tonight, because I know that you're not feeling well, a little under the weather with the cold.
Yeah.
But she's
I have my voice, which is good.
Yeah, that is good. That's a big difference from yesterday, eh? She's a trooper. And we wouldn't have missed this for the world. Like, if I'd been in the same shoes as she in, I would have been like, okay, give me some Theraflu, give me some, all the medicines. I'm going to just load up and we're going to make it through this because I'm excited about tonight.
Today is so special. But I would like to say my piece after we also just kind of say last week was also so special.
Yeah. Cozy Conchili returning. Oh my gosh, it was such an amazing episode, an amazing interview. And I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah, but today is really special because the person we have on to discuss Dungeons and Dragons with is somebody we've known now for many, many years. And I am such a big fan of his Instagram content and just him as a person, just such an amazing person. And I'm just so thankful to have them on today. And who is it, Stormy?
Well said. And I like the way you did that. Nice little role reversal. Well done. I'm super excited too because I've known Rhovanndir, like you said, for several years now. He's just the sweetest, most amazing human being, and I swear someday I want to play Dungeons and Dragons with him. And that's who we have tonight, Rhovanndir, on the show, and here he is. Rhovanndir, hello.
Hello.
Please reintroduce yourself and share something about your Instagram and yourself that you want to share with the folks.
Okay, so as you know, I'm Rhovanndir, also known as Traveling Game Master over on Instagram. I've been playing for quite a while now. Well, maybe not that long, now that I think about it, but like since 2017, late 2017, and mostly D&D. Though recently I've been expanding the horizons, and I'm happy to say that I'm almost proficient. Let's say that with Avatar Legends, which I've been studying the system for quite a while, and also I'm looking forward to do 10 Candles one shot very, very soon. So I'm quite happy how it's going.
Right on. That's fantastic. And I would say 7 years is a long time to play D&D. I mean, like it's pretty good. I would say you're definitely a vet at this point. So, especially if you're a DM, right? It's a treat and an honor to have you on, Rhovanndir, and I really appreciate you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. And now I really want to dive into and know you better as a DM, because jumping into this is one of the Legacy of Loremasters that I've been really looking forward to. So if you could start us off by telling us your DM origin story. How did you get into Dungeons and Dragons? And how did you become a dungeon master as well?
So the process where I first learned about D&D was quite long. Just as a backup, since I was little, I think I was 11 or 12 when I was introduced to Skyrim from Elder Scrolls. And I always enjoyed playing that game for quite a few years, actually. And I used to watch a guy over on YouTube. I believe his name was Mr. Rex. he did like lore videos about Skyrim, and from one day to another, he started doing lore videos about D&D, monsters and its creatures. And I was like, oh my, like I was younger at the time. I was like, oh, this is so cool. There's so many monsters and like that's crazy. And I did a quick search and I was like, oh, and there's classes and it's fantasy. Like this video game is amazing. And I was like, oh my God. And then I searched a little better, like for maybe like a month after. And I was like, wait, this is not a video game? What do you mean? That's so dumb. And that wasn't literally the first time I heard about it. And like I would say a year and something after, I heard some of my friends talking about it. I was like, well, it's now or never. Let's try it. It won't hurt, and that's about it. I was in the last year of my high school, and they had like a pretty big group, and I was like, I have to play. Like you gotta arrange something. I have to play, and
Yeah.
I did play in that game, and it was awesome. It was like there's no turning back from here. It's,
Had you
I
completely
freaking
hooked,
love
huh?
it. You know, I freaking love the RP aspect of it, and especially um, and also I usually play face to face, so like at the live table. So for me, it was a really big and important aspect for it because of some psychological struggles I was going through. So it was really nice to see like a bunch of people playing a game, and especially one that you could play at a table with your friends. So
Yeah.
that did really help me. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's what. So, when did you take the leap from player to DM?
It was quite a fast leap. My DM at that time, um, it was it was also starting out, so it was a fresh DM. And when I saw the possibilities, like I played the first game, and I was like, okay, this is like a little confusing. I don't know like what all of these classes are and what do they do and what's the difference between a ranger and a fighter. Like, what the heck? So I was still figuring it out. But by the second game, I had a pretty big understanding already of the mechanics, because again, I'm a huge nerd, so I went home and freaking read the player's handbook from from to back, and yeah, I was like, oh my god, okay. And as I heard him describing some stuff, I was like, well, I guess you could like thinking to myself, of course, I was not saying this. Maybe you could do like some more descriptions here. Maybe leave some more room for us to talk here. I was like, well, I have to try to do a one shot, and so I did. I also, and in the process of studying to be a DM, I was like, oh, let's see some like games. Maybe someone must probably stream this, and so I found Critical Role, like as many probably did,
Yep.
and it was at the beginning of their new campaign, so the Mighty Nine campaign, the second one.
Yep.
So I was like, it was great timing, and I was like, the time they Matt Mercer placed down the like that crazy circus tent thing with many miniatures and all, I was like, ah, wait, you can play with minis? That's crazy. And like, oh my god, that unlocked the whole lot of problem I was just like, I remember like in between the first game I played and the time I GM'd, it was like maybe 4 months. It was pretty quick. Like, and then I stayed pretty much forever DM for quite a while.
Uh-huh.
I just recently now started playing a D&D game with the new rules for 5e. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it was quite a big step, but a fast
Yep.
one.
Nice.
But
Very cool.
I feel like it suits you because like how quickly you went from what's the difference to okay, we're gonna read the whole book. Like
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
I feel like that was a transition that made sense for you.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
Well,
because I'm sorry. Go
oh
ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I'm really curious and I really like to, perhaps because of how I am, I guess I'm a little insecure, and at the time I was more even. So I wanted to be sure that I knew the rules and the lore and everything.
Mhm.
Sometimes it, it's not too good to have that type of approach to it, but I really wanted to know the most to make the best experience for everyone. So like reading, I did a lots of reading
Mhm.
at
Mm-hmm.
that time. So yeah, it did help me becoming a better DM, I guess.
Absolutely.
I
I
love
was going to
that.
say it just from talking to you this short amount of time, you seem to be very creative and imaginative. And so it doesn't surprise me that you made the jump to DM, you know? So
Yeah.
before we got on the show today, you know, in the interim when we were chatting with Rhovanndir, we were talking about how much he loves medieval fantasy and how lucky he is to have all these castles to inspire him in his home country. And I found myself thinking, man, I would love that so much.
Yeah.
Uh it's beautiful. I love it so much.
Hmm.
Um Rhovanndir, can you share with us the process of crafting a campaign story from scratch if you do? Or do you mostly do like modules?
I Personally, I don't do modules, though and I seek to do one very soon.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I'm looking again, going back about the uh, trying to be a perfectionist and all of that. So I always thought doing a homebrew campaign was best to um interconnect all of the character backstories, because I believe that it not even like the main plot. I believe that's my biggest flaw when doing a campaign. It's the main plot, because the various backstories and the various arcs of the characters I freaking love, and I put a lot of energy on doing that. Doing a great arc for every person at the table. I do believe my over like mostly like the BBG, so the boss, let's say.
Yeah.
It's usually where I think I like the most experience in it. So doing a BBG that's interesting and not like, oh, I'm gonna kill everyone, stop me, and avoiding that type of character, it's hard for me. So yeah, I would say doing modules was never my idea when I
Yeah.
started, because I thought, well, I can do my world and I can do the characters' backstories and have them and let them have a free reign, so they can do whatever. Usually, I
Mhm.
don't do a lot of restrictions, like as in for species or races
Mhm.
and all of that. So yeah, I usually do more homebrew contents
I
regarding
love that.
campaigns.
I love
Awesome.
that. What's your favorite homebrew like scenario that you've set up?
Um, so from the beginning,
Mhm.
when I'm gonna say, I believe it was 2019. I believe in 2018 I started doing some one shots here and there. I started to do a campaign. Didn't really work out.
Mhm.
But in 2019 I did a homebrew world, and since then, every time I GM, I do it on that world. So it's
Mhm.
always adding up. Because in the I did the main continent and did all the realms. I wrote down quite a bit about the factions and the lineages of the various races. And yeah, I keep adding to this day. I keep adding more info and more lore about it.
Hmm.
That's so cool.
So the world, it's Ithia, Ithea, and but the continents, most players of mine and other players that I've played with um, know it as Urador. It's a big continent, and I recently had a project about it. I don't quite remember the software I was using, but I'm writing down as if it was a campaign setting from Wizard. So like
Ooh.
their layout and all of that, and I freaking love it. It's it's
Oh.
it's super nice because like I'm not writing it from scratch, because writing a book with my schedule, it's just impossible unless
Yep.
I'm writing it for like the next 10 years or something.
Yeah.
But I've been going around, and especially to the older editions, second and third, and yeah, I've been grabbing quite a few bits of lore to help it uh, get some shape, and I've been doing some changes because unfortunately older editions were had an it touched some topics that were not so great, regarding some racial stereotypes and all of that. So of course I've been adapting it to the modern day, let's say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been crazy to think about it, and thinking that I've done 3 campaigns now on that world, and more like probably like 30 or 40 one shots on that game world. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
and to think that every player adds its bit, even in one shots, it's really nice because they've slowly been um, changing the world, and it's really cool to see their changes on its history,
Uh-huh.
especially, and it's it's awesome. It's really cool about playing such a in the same setting for such a long time, is seeing the players faces lighting up whenever they see their own character, like just talking with them. I recently I have a girl in a game that I'm playing with. um she found herself talking to her own character. It was delightful, and I didn't even talk too much about how their character looked like. I just talked about um, like just a few points, like a green dress, and it was a satyr, and I didn't go too much into it because it was in the session it was dark, and it had a misty a mist around them. And the moment I started talking with the character's mannerisms and voice, she was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it." It was delightful, and I do that quite often, especially when the players are the same in the between the games.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing better for me as a DM having their characters, and sometimes like being a guide to the ones. It feels like, I don't know. It's crazy to think about it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, that's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that this is a continual world that you're building, right?
Mhm.
And everybody's helping you change and grow and adapt it and like creating its history. I think that's so cool. I love
Mm-hmm.
that so much.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and especially from the GM standpoint, whenever I start a campaign, it's great because I believe, because I'm not a great writer at all. So to see the characters do a backstory, a complex backstory, and me letting them have complete free reign to do whatever whatsoever, um, it's really nice because it's different people that are adding to the same project. Of course, I oversee it all, but it's really nice having like, okay, do we have like a Fey-ish place in your world? And yes, I say yes, I do actually. And then they're like, okay, can I be from this secretive town that had like gnomes and forest creatures and all of that? I was like, yeah, sure. And do you want to give it a name? And I was like, yeah, that would be awesome. And so I grab whatever they do and just place it down. And it's as if it always existed in the game world, and they keep adding up. And I started like with maybe, I believe it was mostly just the capitals of the various provinces and the various realms.
Mm-hmm.
And by now I have like 200 something cities and towns and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy to think about it, and like they are quite detailed because of the players, and they I don't think they grasp the idea that they are contributing so much to the world,
Mm-hmm.
and making it more immersive every time I GM a campaign.
I love that. That's so fun.
So, Rove, tell us a little bit more about your DM style for designing interesting NPCs.
Ooh, okay, that's an interesting question. So for designing interesting NPCs, in the beginning, the players had a joke about it actually, because most of my NPCs acted and felt samey, so they were always the same voice, the same mannerisms, and my players were like, "Oh, yeah, I see another shopkeep that doesn't like us." And so in the first year of that of the game of that campaign, I evolved quite rapidly,
Mhm.
and so I had to start using voices and mannerisms. Personally, I feel like the more quirky, the better.
Mhm.
Because if the players can figure it out who are they talking with before I even describe who's approaching, then it's a good NPC,
Mhm.
because it's in their imagination. Of course, you cannot. I use quite a few minis, but mostly in combat.
Hmm.
And if you can skip some description. Of course, like I always like to describe, and I describe quite extensively. But whenever it's a reoccurring NPC, they don't really need to like listen to that whole description again. So having concise idea about an NPC and a very quirky characteristic about it, it's great. Because in the first campaign I had one sea elf. It was an archmage. He had a very nasal voice, like extreme nasal voice, and it would just like they'll be doing something, and whenever he would show up, and be like, "Oh my God, it's Neldar," and they would be like, it was really cool because it was like my first NPC that I really felt like had an impact, and the players loved them. They freaking loved them. It was such a cool character that I did. More recent, I did a character. Is called Lazuli.
Mhm.
He's a little blue kobold. He's like artificer of sorts. He has like a lot of magical items. He's like basically a traveling merchant, and across various campaigns now and one shots, it very often the players will find him in the most and craziest places and situations. He's been almost killed by a cult. He was trapped by a troll. He was in the astral plane, just like I don't know, having a vacation or something. And it's really cool because they're like, what is he doing? And the best part of it even I would say is like he carries a lot of pets. He carries a skunk and a giant snake and a scorpion, and like most of the animals, let's say, they are not very well kept, and it's funny to see the characters and the players react to the conditions that this little character is putting these animals in, because like it's crazy, like, and they are like, oh my God, is that skunk all right? And it's cool because this one character Lazuli, it's the most iconic one I have.
Uh-huh.
And let's just say he's way stronger than he seems to. And he probably, I'm not gonna share too much about it because we never know who's watching this. I
Right.
believe
Right.
maybe some friends like. I just want to keep the mystique about it.
Sure.
But he's way stronger than he looks to. And yeah, but mostly I would say for new GMs and even veteran ones, do a maybe it's a quirky voice, maybe it's a quirky mannerism, maybe it's I don't know, like a visual view about it. Make it quirky, like give it that one characteristic that the players know who they are talking to without describing. That's I believe that's the best approach one can do.
Agreed.
Yeah. Or have him just conveniently be the exact same guard every time we leave Misty City, you know, where he's at the same spot every time. And then he becomes
Well,
our
it's not.
favorite
It's
guard.
Yeah, no,
it's because you guys are always leaving around the same time. So,
And he was the same guard at the gate, you
Yeah.
know? That's how we became friends with Captain Dan Brunos, because he was the same guard every time. Like,
but Captain Dan.
but Dan!
All right.
Rhovanndir, If you could, may you share how you go about crafting interesting encounters?
Ooh. Okay, that's a little hard for me, I would say.
Yeah.
I think in 5e, I've only played D&D 5e. That's that franchise. I've only played 5e.
Uh-huh.
The biggest problem with 5e, especially at higher levels,
Mhm.
is do a challenging encounter and make it fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because I feel like like the equilibrium, the balance aspect of the game, it could be better, especially at levels around 10, 11. It gets out of hand unless you are like putting some crazy strong enemies, like in pairs or maybe 3, 4s. It's really hard. As time goes on, I've learned to just ignore the CR mechanics.
Yep. Agreed.
CR is busted. It just doesn't work. You
Agreed.
can kill a bunch of level 1 or 2 characters with very low CR enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do like a level 5 with like huge CR enemies, and the players just do alright.
Yeah.
It's mostly a matter of how many players there are, how many classes there are, and having a big understanding about the class and subclass features. Because a level 5 Twilight Cleric, it's very different from, let's say, a Trickster Rogue,
Mm-hmm.
Arcane Trickster Rogue, from the same level. And you can have the same number, even the same people playing the same campaign, and the party composition will definitely change how you create a challenging and fun encounter to everyone. I usually try to pick a character that is and see what he or she are best at. So let's say a cleric, for instance, is they are really good with undead.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna pick that character to be the focus and let them have the spotlight and and do the encounter around one specific character. Of course, like let's say a bigger boss or something, I will try to implement aspects where every character feels like they have a very strong objective and where they can m- more or less see a defined objective that their character is best at.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe um, I would say it completely ignores CR. It's it's not gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned and I've learned a lot with it because I remember doing, I believe they were level 17,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I placed like maybe 5. Um, what was their name? It was a creature from the Shadowfell. They are huge. They were really strong. I believe they were like Challenger 20, and there were like 5 of them. They were like, I think it was 7 characters, 7 players. That is.
Mm-hmm.
They just I don't know. Like they maybe the first one was hard to kill. After the fall of the first, it was like a domino effect. It was like crazy. Um, so yeah, definitely under the current edition, um, analyze what the characters can do, Maybe if they have magic items, with magic items can change the balance of a battle quite rapidly
For
if
sure.
used correctly.
Yeah.
So I would say look at their character sheets maybe every time they level up. Just take a brief look, see what they can do, so that you can do an interesting encounter with their abilities in mind, and also have it be challenging without having like to place 30 enemies in the at the table and
Yeah.
be a drag, because that it's not nice. Also, if the combat takes way too long, it loses the spark and the excitement about it. So do try to put some sort of focus on the character's abilities, see their strengths, their flaws also, and try to do a challenge around that.
Well
That is
said. That is
fantastic
incredible
advice.
advice.
I've heard a lot of people say the CR ratings don't matter. I've heard that a few times.
Yeah, yeah. Like they were better in 3.5, but they were still. I mean, it made more sense in 3.5. It was more granular. It was a little bit tighter and closer to what you could actually craft. But it's still kind of a tough call. But even back then, there were a couple of monsters that really either exceeded their challenge rating or were way weaker than their challenge rating. But in fifth ed, it's definitely quite a bit worse. And I agree with you. Like there's some monsters, like you said, I can't think of off the top of my head, but there's some low level monsters that will wipe a low level party, even though there are less challenge rating in the party. And then the vice versa. There's some big ass monsters that you think would be really challenging, and they'll just get chewed up by a decent team. So
There was a
Yeah.
few times when you threw like some hardcore enemies at us when we were playing Isles in the Mist, and I remember looking at them going like, "Oh no, this is a lot. This is really bad." And then we started fighting, and I'm like, okay, never mind. I can see why Stormy did that. Never mind. We're a really badass team.
Yeah.
We're never mind. I am less afraid.
Yeah.
But
But I'm glad that it had that desired effect, right? Like when you see it's like, oh crap. But then you get into the fight and you build your confidence up. So
yeah. I think that also happened with like you had like 4 of the different hags or something like that. It was like the sea,
the
I
sea
can't even
hag, the
remember.
night hag, I basically there
Yeah.
was a hag coven and I used pretty much all of them, I think.
Yeah. And it was definitely like one of those things where we're like, "Oh no, this is really not good." And they're swimming in the water. Oh no, oh no. Like I can't swim. This is terrible.
Yeah.
But we did well. So,
Yeah, you guys did great. You did great, and I love hearing your stories about the way you craft the encounter around specific capabilities, strengths, or weaknesses of the players. That's very clever. I've done that before, kind of unconsciously, but I'm going to start incorporating that even more now, and kind of have been. I think it's a wonderful idea.
I've noticed too that you talk a lot about how you're very like player story focused. And cuz like there is that overarching story that people want to experience, but when the story is about that other player, like about a player, I think that's one of the reasons why so many people loved watching this campaign 2 of Critical Role is like they did moments when they were just focused on one player and one thing for that one player, and everybody got to ban around and help Jester do a thing or help whatever it is. Because it's like it really adds that like camaraderie to the group, and it really helps like you know, uh, you be able to craft and like dig deeper into that character, which a lot of people at the end of the day, that's what they love,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
I think that's really cool that you do that
Yep.
because
Yeah.
I think for a lot of new DMs, people, they think like their main focus is how do you beat the big bad evil guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, all of us players, all we want to do is talk about our characters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think, and focusing on the player, it makes it that more memorable, because it's like you were saying, the players that play in these all different campaigns, the thing that they'll remember the most is their own character.
Mm-hmm.
So letting them have that special moment makes it more immersive. It makes the experience so much better.
Yeah.
And by the time that they reach the BBEG, the how do I say it in English? Excuse me, like I'm trying to translate it in my head.
You're
Mhm.
good.
So
You're good.
the challenge and the risk of losing the character is real, because the character feels real,
Yeah.
and building that up with that character moments and the arcs and all of that, build up towards that moment where they have to join forces, they have to work together to defeat this common evil. Just makes it so much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So
100%.
this last question for the main interview is a toughie. I love asking this question because it's one of it's an important one. What's your DM style for handling pace? Handling pacing. What is your handling pacing methods?
Again, I have to read the room energy.
Mhm.
Sometimes, and especially after maybe a dungeon crawl, the pacing, the session goes by faster. The time period that the session covers, it's way faster.
Right.
And sometimes it gets extremely like detailed and slow, especially in a very high stakes scenario. It does start to slow down quite a bit, especially let's say when it's a dungeon crawl. I do like doing those. I try to not do them that often. Maybe in a campaign I do like 3, maybe 4, and avoid doing that too much, because it does slow down quite a bit. Sometimes we are like in the same dungeon for like 1, 2, maybe 3 sessions, if it's the end one. But yeah, I try to read the room and see what it's best for everyone and the energy that everyone is conveying. Sometimes we just need like I don't know, like downtime session. Everyone's gonna, I don't know, go to the bakery and talk with that old crazy merchant on the end of the street. And sometimes people just wanna uncover more about the story and maybe do some travel. And the pacing goes way faster, and they just want to get stuff done and see where else the story leads them to. So the I can see now the same. Going back maybe a couple questions, I keep saying, let the players lead the story and see what it's best for them, and read their vibe, read their moods, and see what works best. Because sometimes players want to be challenged. They want to
Yeah.
do a freaking hard dungeon of sorts. Like slow down the pacing. Let's see who finds those traps. Maybe the rogue wants to use its like freaking high investigation. Like I had a player in this last campaign I GM'd. He had like I don't know like a 15 bonus to investigation. It was crazy. Like he just and I let him roll quite often that investigation rolls whenever we were in a dungeon crawl
Mhm.
because he really loved that. So I would let him have that spotlight and me even like slowing down the pacing to allow him to shine.
Mhm.
And some other characters uh, really enjoyed the travel experience, especially across a wide world. I mean,
Mhm.
and for that ones, I would have to increase the pacing quite a bit to allow the travel without being well. 30 encounters in between because the distance was crazy.
Right.
So try to see what is best for the story and especially what is best for the players because at the end of the day they are the audience that you have.
Mhm.
They are the readers of your book and or the audience of your movie or whatever. So let them enjoy the experience and let them lead the pacing.
Great.
Do you hold that philosophy when you're trying to do a one shot? Because I know running a campaign versus running a one shot, it's a very different mindset.
Good question.
So,
That's a really good question, Druid. I would say uh, in a campaign where time is not a problem, I
Mhm.
can run like I have a point A and a point B. They can arrive there like in a year, or they can arrive there in 2 years or three. I don't know.
yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
As long as everyone is understands that they have to get to point A to B, um, everything else doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. Like
Mhm.
as long as they are having fun, because players have to have fun.
Right.
And sometimes some DMs, in order to tell a fantastic campaign, they sometimes forget that focus that the players should also have fun and tell their own stories with their own twists and turns. And
Mhm.
I love when the players do something crazy that completely derails the campaign. That happens quite often, actually. Now
Mhm.
that I think about it,
Uh-huh.
but see them do that, or maybe slow down the pacing to do like I was saying, go talk with the baker or maybe that old lady. It's just really cool because it gives um the player the player character I mean um that much more depth.
Yes.
And while in the one shot, of course, because time is of the essence,
Yeah.
you have to sometimes cut a bit of the role play, maybe the travel, or maybe even the combat. I do think, and I usually when I start a one shot, I use a formula. I start with some sort of travel, then I focus on role play, and then combat by the end. And more often than not, I like to sacrifice combat over the two other pillars, especially because I run a lot of one shots for newbies.
Mm.
I feel like giving space to travel and experiment with the mechanics. It's nice. So, like, let's say, do a survival check to see if you can get to that place without too much trouble, or maybe if you wanna grab some berries, do again a survival check. Well, maybe it wasn't the best example, but
Yeah.
you the players start to feel what the mechanics are. Then by role play, they start experimenting with who their character is, how they react to the world, and what do they believe in, and then give time for the combat. Of course, on the combat side of it, I usually, whenever I see that the time is running out, I start cutting some corners on the combat, because combat is great. Combat is really cool to challenge the players. But it's the role play that should be the highlight of the session. And I don't want to rush anyone because they wanted to talk with someone random. I want to give that player that time to talk to them. Of course, in a one shot, I try to be more assertive and more how do I say it? I try to have a more defined objective
Mhm.
to avoid some derailing and some unwanted attention to some random NPC. But
Right.
Yeah.
whoever I introduce the party to it's very fulcral to the progression of the one shot.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because Stormy and I have been a part of a one shot that turned into a 4-part.
Wow,
Yeah,
a 4
I mean,
parts.
that's a perfect example of poor Jotun couldn't quite get the pacing down on that one.
Well, because we kept talking to the most random NPCs
we
or
were
to each
and
other. We
RPing
were
with
just,
each other for long periods of time too.
and he's
That-
just sitting there like, we're supposed to be finding something by the end of this. And we're like, yeah, but we're going to talk to each other instead. Poor
Yep.
That's crazy. I never heard of a one shot turned 4 sessions. Like
Yep.
that's a 4-part one shot. That's crazy.
Yep. Poor
I
guy.
heard like a 2 and a 3, but that's 4. That's a record. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really cool though. It was fun though. I believe.
Yeah, we had a
That
lot of fun.
It was a blast. we wouldn't have gone back and done the other 3 sessions if we weren't having fun for sure. So
Yeah.
no, definitely. And I think even though that it sometimes happens, it can happen. And as long as the players are having fun, who cares?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. It's
Agreed.
a game.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are now at the end of our regular topics that we have. We already have one question from chat, and I also have another question as well. But
Cool.
this is also the perfect opportunity for everybody in chat to go follow Rhovanndir on Instagram under the Traveling Game Master. And also you can follow his friend's Instagram that he is now a part of doing their D&D campaigns. So you could go follow both of their campaigns there. And I'm sure once things happen, and Rhovanndir starts streaming D&D again, if you speak Portuguese, you'll be able to go hang out there with them. So super exciting stuff. Hi, Beast of Bifrost. And so yeah, if you have any questions for Rhovanndir or for us as a collective D&D topics, feel free. If not, I have plenty of questions to take over for the next hour and a half if need be, because I'm also currently looking at Rhovanndir's Instagram as we speak. Which the day that I learned about Rhovanndir's Instagram and seeing all of the photos that he's posting up and stuff, I was just in love. It is fantastic. all of the minis and everything that he has on there are so much fun.
Yeah.
And all of the scenes that he has set up and the photography that he has it set up and like it's so much fun. 10 out of 10. Go highly recommend you go check it out, especially if you're into minis and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
please, please, please go do that. Um,
I mean, I'm a big fan of minis. I have a ton of them, but I always buy the pre-painted ones because I just don't have the time and the space to paint them. Although, secret, it's not really a secret. She knows, but because she was there with me when I bought the stuff. But I bought. I bought. So you guys know in the current campaign, Star Kitty's character Shay has her little cat dragon Milo, right? Who is basically a baby dragon, and but it's a little bit different. Like her relation, he's really going to always be this little bitty kind of cat, right? With wings, but then for short periods of time, he can turn into a true dragon. And so I went and got this mini that is of a dragon, and I bought the paint, and I'm gonna paint it for her. I think it's like right over here. I'll share it. Yeah. Oh,
Freaking.
I don't know when I'm gonna find the time or the space to paint it, but
I've seen that one. That's so cool.
yeah.
It's
fun.
so cool.
Fun
I got
fact.
black and purple paint, and so I'm gonna, since he's a purple dragon kitty, that's what we're gonna do. And
You gotta show that one painted. Oh my god,
yeah.
that's so cool.
So right here in my background, you cannot see it, but I can grab it if you want to. It is a chimera. So after our very first streamed session of Isles in the Mist, Star Kitty's character almost died to a chimera. She got down to 1 HP. And literally that week, Fate and I ended up finding a chimera mini, and it now lives in our background as homage to the moment we almost lost Emmeline Ray on our first streamed D&D session.
right.
The minis are so much fun.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. and I think for newbies, on the TTRPG space, it's such a good tool because specifically because they don't. I'm not. I don't want to say that their imagination it's not as well developed. It's not what I want to say, but because a visual representation of these creatures and the challenges they have to face, it really does help because maybe mechanically they are not as proficient as a veteran, but perhaps they want to see, oh, I see that that bookshelf. Can I see what books they have? And I was like, well, roll an investigation. And what do you want to find there? And maybe they are not aware of what they can do, but seeing a visual representation of whatever scenario they are in, it opens up a bunch of possibilities to them, making it easier. I think D&D, the coolest thing about it is that because so many people play it nowadays, more and more people are interested in trying it out. Maybe it's not for them, but there's plenty of systems and other styles of games that fill in the same niche, I would say. And it's really cool because it really helps everyone figuring out what type of game they like, because it's really awesome, that part of TTRPGs, that there's like a bunch of crazy systems of about pretty much anything. I was reading the other day, there's a system for Power Rangers. I was like, oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I started reading it. It like it was fun. I think the mechanics are not that good, but it's cool. It's cool,
Yeah.
and so yeah, having a visual representation, it does really help for all the newbies. So minis are a great tool. But yeah.
Yeah.
Coming together.
Minis.
I literally
Oh,
have the
that-
Chimera like right here next to me.
That's crazy cool. I have
love
the
it.
camera. There it goes. There it goes.
Yeah.
That's a great one. It was right here next to me because of oh man, and I messed up the number. Oh, well, I guess we'll figure it out. Yeah, the Sunday campaign with the friend group that we've been doing for 9 years. I left it out here from last week. Just usually what I do is I'll take a picture of it and then break it down and for their group on Saturdays and then put it back, and then, which is kind of a fun project. But I won't have to this week since we're going to take a break. But fun fact about me, like I've been playing been a dungeon master, Dungeons and Dragons since 1981, the original BX set, and then AD&D and all that. For a large majority of that time, we always did theater of the mind. We didn't use miniatures at all. So I agree with you. Once I switched to using miniatures, I just love it. I think it makes it so that they have something to inspire them, right? Inspire their imagination. But it also allows for them to understand tactics in a fight, right?
I just want to say, I don't 1981.
I was 12, turned 13.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I just adore you so much, Rhovanndir.
I do too.
Oh my goodness. Oh, my heart.
Wow, that's you've played through all the editions basically.
Yeah.
It's-
I
that's
played
so
fourth
cool.
ed for all of a half a session, I would say.
You what?
The edition that shall not be named, even though I just now named it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. But yeah. I love 3.5 in fifth ed almost equally now. I would say 3.5 is like 51%, and in fifth ed is 49%. Yeah, I like they're amazing. But yeah, theater of the mind was what we did. I mean, don't get me wrong. We would, back then what you would do is, like, if you're doing a dungeon crawl, you give them graph paper and you would describe the size of the hallways, and they would map the dungeon as they went.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool, actually.
But we didn't have miniatures. So
actually-
now, if you ever get a chance to see one of our Saturday streams, I think you've probably seen or
I've seen quite a few.
Okay,
I've
fair
seen quite a few. I'm still watching As of the Mist. I want to catch up, but things
life
have
is
been
busy.
hard.
Life is
Yeah,
busy.
we
yeah.
understand,
get
Rove.
it.
It's okay,
We get
brother.
it.
We love you.
Yeah.
No matter
worries.
what, Rhovanndir, I love that you're here and that we're talking to you so much. You have no idea.
I agree.
I'm so happy. I am going to cut in really quick here.
Well, before
Lord
she does
Alex-
cut in, though, I do want to point out something, because she's got the next question for sure. But I just want to make sure that you know that starting next year at some point, I'm going to be doing a special series that are basically going to be 3 shots. I don't feel confident doing a 1 shot, but I know I can do a 3 shot, and they're going to be 3 consecutive weeks. And so it'll, and then we have a server set up where people in the community can join and come play for those sessions. And it's going to be on Wednesdays evenings for 3 weeks in a row, and then the next
That's
month it'll be different
so
players, and the next month it'll be different players, and then let's do some mixing.
that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I wanted you to know in case you find more time next year, because I would love to add you to the server if you wanted to do
Who
it.
knows? I hope I have the time because
Mhm,
that
mhm.
sounds like a great idea. A great idea.
All right, back to
Um,
you, Druid.
Lord Alexandra asks, I just popped in, so I don't know if this came up, but what is Rhovanndir's thoughts on sandbox style campaigns?
ooh, okay. Personally,
Mhm.
I think a sandbox um it's like the nemesis of a railroad. I think both extremes I think they are not the best, at least for me to GM. I think a railroad doesn't give too much options to the players, and the sandbox gives way too much, and there's no focus on a clear objective. So personally, I don't enjoy a sandbox or yeah. I guess some elements of it are nice on perhaps a downtime session. Like players can do whatever, but like in a campaign to let them have too much freedom, especially when in the beginning of a campaign, because think about the characters are that are meeting each other. If they don't have a clear objective and an objective in common, why stay together? You
Mhm.
know, like because it has to make like a bit of sense for them
Right.
to join forces. And in a sandbox, I think it's only good if everyone is seeking that type of experience. Because if there's someone that's looking for an overarching story with plots and twists and whatever,
Mhm, mhm.
it won't work out.
Yeah.
So it's for a sandbox. I think it needs a very specific type of player and GM to
Agreed.
work it out. But yeah, I mean, I'm not against it. It's the
Right.
same with the railroads. I personally wouldn't play one, but why not? I mean, if the person or the player is willing to and is seeking that type of experience, then let them have it.
I
That's
agree.
that's one of the best things about this type of games. Like perhaps this one table is not for you, but you probably have people, and especially and with in this digital age,
Mhm.
it's way easier to find people that share the same interests and the same play style. And yeah, you'll find someone for a sandbox.
Yeah.
Maybe not me,
No,
but you will.
I
Yeah.
agree with you, brother.
So,
Yep.
It's like it, I have also noticed just kind of on that note, again, not knocking sandbox, because if it's done right, and like you said, if the entire group is looking for that kind of experience, it can be incredible, right? Like I know of some sandbox style groups that they've been playing in the same sandbox for like it's the same world, the same sandbox for over 10 years, right? And
wow.
but um, I've also seen, especially with new DMs, uh, those sandbox style campaigns derail the fastest because
Mhm.
it's the whole point is, like you said, the player just to have fun. And if you can't engage the players with something that's really drawing them in, then it's easier for them to have excuses of things they would rather be doing. You know what I mean? And that's why. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had my own groups fall apart because people moved away. You know, that happens, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel you. I think you're right. I'm nothing against Sandbox. Yeah, like it has to be a commitment and a certain mindset. Look at those cuties. Oh my God.
I just gotta show Druid because this is my snowy owl bear. It's a dice pouch. It opens up. It has a zipper, and this one is
Amazing.
my red dragon.
A little red
And I think
dragon.
it was my friends, like some of my school friends, that when I started out, they like, I love my birthday. I know I'm gonna receive some just this type of, I love plushes, and when they gave this to me, I was like, oh my god, I gotta take him everywhere. And
Goodness.
yeah, I really take them anywhere whenever I'm doing a game session, and people love these. It's so cool.
It's so cute.
Those
They're
are adorable.
amazing.
I would totally
Yeah.
use the dragon as an enemy or an encounter, not necessarily an enemy. It would be an encounter. Whether they talk to the dragon or try and not get eaten by the dragon is up to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a
But it'd
really
be so
good use
cool
of
to
it.
have the little plushie there on the mat.
Now I do have a question.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, yeah, just
Yeah.
changing it up a bit.
I love it.
I don't know if you've been into the new aspects of the new iteration of the D&D 5e system, and what are your takes about the changes?
So I admit that I Starkitty got us the book, and I haven't found the time to read much of it. But I watched a few YouTube videos before it came out of some of the changes that they were talking about, and I feel like I definitely like the way they have, and they really kind of already started it with the whatchamacallit, that even before it started coming out, they started to slowly evolve it to this idea that the races are they're not races, they are species. Right, yeah. And I like that. And I like that now anybody can be almost anything, and that if it's an intelligent creature, they're not necessarily inherently evil, right? It's the way they were raised or their culture that they were in, those kinds of things. And so you could have a goblin or a hobgoblin or, a full-on orc or whatever, and they can become an adventurer and be a hero and things like that. So I like that part of it that I know of, and I think that there's some mechanics of the characters that they've changed a bit that look intriguing too.
Yeah,
they upgraded a bunch of spells too. Because Fate's been using D&D Beyond, and there's the legacy spells and then the new spells. And so of course, I'm looking over his shoulder and reading the spells as he pulls them up too, because he's like, what is the difference? Some of them have been pretty cool, some of them are just like meh, but I also really like how they've changed it to species, and like you can have like a lot more of a variety now, because why not, right? Why not have that variety, so I really like that personally, but otherwise I haven't really looked much into it personally. But
I
what are
like
your
the
thoughts?
concept of it enough that I let it inspire me, even though we're doing traditional 5e, but it inspired me for Progentica, the world that you guys are, the main world that you guys are in. I feel like it's super cosmopolitan, right? Every kind of species you can think of exists on Progentica. And but it's just this hodgepodge. They get along for the most part, but there's the normal kind of when people are criminals or or whatnot, and but it's an outlier, right? It's not
Yeah.
because they're not bad because of their genetics, their DNA, how they were born. They're bad because they make bad choices, or they were raised to that in a wrong way or whatever. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do enjoy that change. I think the culture of that NPC or character is what molds them to be who they are. So
yeah,
Mhm.
it's really interesting them saying basically, well, maybe this orc lived in a tribe that they valued different principles and
mm-hmm.
different laws. Or maybe like this orc grew up in a human settlement. So what would be the cultural differences that he would face to change him to become a naturally good person?
Yeah.
Like it's all about the context. So
Mm.
it is without saying that perhaps there's still bad orcs and
Mhm.
like let's say the drow, like there's still and touching with El Salvador novels from the Legend of Druids. What made that character good was going against their culture, but
Right.
it doesn't change the fact that it can be any culture. It doesn't have to be about drow are naturally evil. Why? Why? Just because it doesn't make much sense. There's
Right.
always outliers, and it's about the context and the culture where the character and the person grows up in. So yeah.
Agreed.
There's so many fairy tales of like, random family adopts this kid that happens to be this, and then they're raised in a cute and warm and loving home, and then they become this, super powerful, super awesome person. Like there's how many examples of that in fairy
Mm-hmm.
tales and
Mm-hmm.
like, fantasy literature, right? So why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I
Alex
love that.
asks, if you had to choose one D&D monster, oh, if you had to choose one D&D monster, which one would you be?
Oh,
I
if I
think
had
that I want all three of us to you first, Rove, but I think that's a
Mhm.
great question for all three of us.
Yes, yes. No, I definitely want to hear about yours. Okay. Ooh, that's a hard question. If I had to be a monster from D&D, which one would I be? Um, I don't know. I like the idea, perhaps, of being um a silver dragon.
Mm. Why
I
silver
like
one in
the-
particular?
I like that. Well, first of all, they are good creatures.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
They are pretty strong,
mm-hmm,
and they often interact with humanoid um, species.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they very often you can see someone that's defending or talking with a random that might be a dragon, and more often than not, silver dragons are the ones that interact directly and help humanoids. So being a very strong creature with a good morale and doing the good and the best for others without necessarily receiving any contemplation of it. So being recognized for its good deeds, it's nice because you could do the good for the sake of doing good, not for the recognition. So yeah.
I love that. That's a great answer. mm. Druid.
I
I'm
can't.
excited.
Okay, listen. I can't think of a D&D one, but whatever the D&D equivalent of a oh, what is it called? Oh no, my brain just left. A Spriggan in Skyrim, whatever that equivalent is in
Oh,
D&D,
Spriggan,
where I'm just
interesting.
well.
that
Oh,
would
I mean, you live in nature and you just viciously protect the trees. That's me.
I mean, basically, that would be a dryad, I think, in
dryad,
D&D.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then yes, that would be me.
That totally suits. That totally fits you.
Yeah, yeah. I could see that. I could
And
definitely
so
see that.
she
I
just
wish I had a.
admitted that she's in her core, she's a druid because dryads are literally like genetically druids. They're
Yes.
their species is a druid.
This is a.
I'm just playing with you.
I know. But to give Rhovanndir context, Stormy and I have been having this argument forever now, because in our main Bandwidth and Banter, we always ask people, what D&D class would they consider themselves to be in real life, and I always say like Bard Barbarian, and Stormy's like no, and I'm like yeah. But then I turn around, I always prove his point right every time. And I just have to fight it now because now it's a part of the joke. So
That's lovely.
So for me, man, like it's a tough call between three things.
Ooh.
One would be like I'm gonna put them in order of the way they would be to where I would I know what the final one is, what the number one of the three is, but it's a tough call. The number three spot goes to the concept of a noble lich. Somebody who becomes a lich not because they want to do evil things, but they want to live forever to protect something important to them with their magic. You know, they want to understand the mysteries of the universe, and so they become a lich on purpose, giving up their humanity so they can become a protector or guardian of some place or thing or something like that. The second one would be a very specific, a neutral. I guess technically be lawful neutral. A lawful neutral champion of Weejoss Death Knight. Because I've always liked Death Knights. I like skeletons. I've liked them since I was a kid. And a Death Knight is just, I've always liked knights. So mixing the skeleton with the knight, it's like cool. And then finally, yeah, I would be a purple dragon. I don't know if an actual purple dragon exists, but I would say it would be like I would be a purple. I think there's a purple gem dragon. I think there is, and I would probably pick that.
There is the amethyst dragon.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I believe there's also a purple dragon. Technically,
Really?
I think it was released on Dragon Magazine.
Ooh.
A while back. I believe there is. But yeah, it changed quite a bit the lore about it. Because of the whole color theory of dragons, of chromatic dragons.
Right.
But yeah, there's quite a few colors. I know for sure there's like a pink dragon that shoots bubbles.
Can I change my answer? Because I want to be that.
You want to be the pink dragon that shoots bubbles?
Yes.
That's a great answer. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and the neat thing about being a dragon druid is if you wanted to turn yourself into a dryad, you could. Like a very powerful ancient dragon, you're typically going to be high-level spellcaster, and they can use polymorph or shape change, something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know a pink dragon that shoots bubbles was an option.
Yeah.
I would be a purple dragon, and I would have both. Let's see, probably lightning and cold as my two breath weapons,
Ooh.
and
I
I would say it would be, even though you would think it would be a blue dragon and a red dragon, having a kid would make a purple dragon. I would say in my lore it would be a blue dragon and a silver dragon had a kid, and so it's a shiny purple dragon.
Oh.
And I just
Yeah,
want to I just want to blow bubbles at people and confuse them. That would be my whole goal in life then. Just a chew and then just bubbles come out. Like that's all I want.
yeah.
I'm never going to stop thinking about that now. So thank you. That's going to be my entire personality for the next 3 weeks.
Oh wow. A raid.
Look at
Holy
the
crap.
raid.
Goblets, Warlocks. Hello. Welcome in, Raiders. Thank you for raiding us, buddy.
Wow.
It's been a while. I thought you were moving and stuff. Welcome back. So Rhovanndir, you look like you're about to say something.
I was gonna say, Druid, I'll try to find that issue of the Dragon magazine and I'm gonna try to send it to you because it's really fun.
Okay.
Awesome.
I love that so
Awesome.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to say thank you to Alex commenting on me seeing me as a gold dragon. I have to admit that did pop into my head when I thought about dragons. If I had to pick, if it were a universe where a purple dragon couldn't exist, I would definitely pick a gold dragon.
Lord Alexandra also asks,
Mhm.
do you prefer square grids or measuring to determine combat distance effects?
That's
attacks,
a great
etc.?
question. I love this.
I think the square grids does help a lot. It makes things way faster, and in a system like D&D where combats can be very slow, grids just a step closer to being a little faster. So any chance I have to make the combat faster, I'll take that over anything.
Agreed.
Especially to keep the intensity and the vibe of that first moment where you discover that you're entering combat mode.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say grid. Even though that sometimes it does make for a better combat if you use some sort of merging tape or something. But perhaps not for D&D, I would say.
Yeah, I can definitely see why Warhammer players would kind of want to play with measuring tape instead. I'm going to nuance his question a little bit and ask you if you had to choose between a square grid and a hex grid, which one would you pick?
I think hex makes more sense.
I do too.
And
I agree.
I would choose hex if it was easier to find a hex type of grid in pre-made terrain. It's just not possible.
Oh man,
Unfortunately,
I'll
it's
have to
really
look for one and send it to you.
Yeah, I would very much appreciate it because I think the hex one, especially when it's spell effects,
right?
I think, and there's lines.
Yeah.
It's so weird because, like, imagine shooting. I think it was lightning bolt. I don't know. It's like a line effect.
Yeah.
And doing it on a diagonal, and like which squares count as in the area, and because if you go like a literal diagonal, like there's a bunch of spaces where creatures won't be affected, but if you suddenly count them, the other ones, as part of that line.
Mhm.
The area is huge, like
Yeah.
it triples the size, and it's just odd. And with the hex, that would be all sold, and it would be way easier. But yeah.
Well, I happen to know somebody that owns a 3D printer, and I'm sure if I go, hey, how much to print out a bunch of, hex stuff for somebody
Well, I don't know how
to make
a
maps
3D
on.
printer is going to make like a vinyl mat.
No, because I'm looking at, because like Rhovanndir uses a lot of, um, they look like the plastic where you could see like the grids and stuff on the bottom that
Mhm.
for like the squares and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if we can get some things that are 3D printed that are the hexagon instead of the squares, and then you could build on top of that like normal. I think
I've been
I may have
lucky.
I may have a contact. So let me.
Okay.
I'll ask around for you.
I've been lucky that this mat that I've used, I've been using it for it's this is probably 20 years old. This mat that I'm using.
Wow.
That you guys and it's got square on one side and hex on the other, and because I use it for two different campaigns on Saturday and Sunday, one side, the hex side, is for, well, it varies, but for the most part, I will use one side for the Saturday stream group and the other side for the Sunday, personal group. But if I had to choose, actually for indoor dungeon crawls, I like the square grid better because it's easier to draw walls and stuff on square grids than it is to draw across the middle of hexes and stuff.
Exactly.
But
And
for
that's
outdoors, outdoor encounters, I definitely prefer the hex grids. So
yeah,
a little bit of nuance there.
that's why most like producers and designers of 3D printed terrain usually go for the square grid because it's way easier to do a square room,
right,
and account for that for those hard corners. And while as in for hex one, it's a little hard because parts of it to do the straight wall would just be impossible. So
yeah,
like I end up choosing the square grids because of that, but I think hex makes way more sense.
yep. Great questions. I have a
Indeed.
question for you, Rhovanndir. Do you have a favorite monster type that you tend to kind of inadvertently overuse in your campaigns just because you like them so much?
Okay. Um. Hmm. I love kobolds. I love kobolds, and that's touching again on that lazuli subject, that one NPC that I love. Kobolds, because of how malleable their psychological and mental characteristics are, because they are unfortunately a species that's very often enslaved by others,
Right.
unfortunately. And it's really cool to see various sides of the kobolds. Perhaps they are in a really big city where they are like they clean the sewer systems from various creatures that perhaps would inhabit there if it wasn't for the kobolds. And they can be used as minions for an evil character that's trying to, I don't know, destroy a village, or maybe they defend a neutral dragon, and maybe a gem dragon that's living in the Underdark. I don't know. There's plenty of opportunities, and letting those creatures shine in various different lights that perhaps would defy a little of how they are perceived by the common player. So yeah, kobolds, I would say those are the coolest ones, and especially because they can be various colors. So like it's the coolest thing. I don't know, like
Yeah,
Yep.
I love that so
yeah.
much.
hmm how about you guys? What do you like? What is the type of character, maybe for you, Stormy, that you enjoy using quite often? And Druid, which type of monster do you like finding in various games?
Okay,
For
go
me,
Stormy.
I
You go
tend
first.
to, and Starkitty would totally back me up on this, and this is because I love medieval fantasy, but I also love Halloween. I really dig undead creatures a
Okay,
lot, of all
I
kinds,
bet.
especially skeletal ones and ghostly
Yeah,
ones. I
yeah.
like various
No,
types of specters, various types of skeletons, and so I have to actually fight the urge to use undead in almost everything.
Says the guy that made half of our last campaign all about undead, and then you're like, okay, we're also going to make an entire world that's all undead as well, and
Hey, the last
you know,
campaign was not all undead. What are you talking about? That was just
I
we
said half the campaign.
no 1/3 because it was Lorcris's arc.
that's awesome. You must love the Shadowfell then. I would.
I don't know. That's like it's a newer kind of thing that they added. When I say newer, relative to my
Mhm.
experience with the game, right?
Yeah.
And so the Shadowfell wasn't something that I necessarily. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm really starting to warm up to it, right? I really, not that I had ever had a problem with it. It just wasn't something that appealed to me that much. But once I really started to delve into it, and honestly, when we did Jotun Red Wolf's campaign together, Druid,
You
when I
did a necromancer.
oh no, he was a necromancer. He was actually a Shadar-kai elf from the Shadowfell.
The
So
Shadowfell.
and once I really delved more into their culture and their and stuff, I'm like, this is kind of fascinating and neat. This is interesting and spooky, and so
Yeah.
for sure, I didn't see it. I got to see it in a new light or new darkness.
Yeah. And what's funny is like I'm the opposite. I love like the idea of like super colorful and vibrant and like trickstery. Like I love like the idea of like Fey realm and like times and illusion. Like, I love the idea of like like I'm always been drawn to like more like elvish or like Fey creatures and like that I love that.
Mhm.
Uh um so like, Fern being a wood elf, I was just like trying to be as like close to like a fairy as possible without actually being a fairy. you know? And it's just like I really enjoy like that I also really enjoy like, tragedy. Like I like and like in like the concepts of like like win you over to betray you but I'm cute and stuff whatever like I'm a fairy and I don't care like don't give me your name like that kind of stuff like I've always really been like that's the kind of stuff that I've always been really drawn to and I don't know why but it is what it is and um, I have to always like I have to fight the urge to like constantly play like an elf character because of that. And so yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I've always found myself drawn to. So anytime we're fighting something that is remotely fey or like witchy or like the hags were really fun for me because I like fighting like other like spellcaster kind of things. Like that's really fun for me. So that's more of like I'm the complete opposite. I'm like more colors but less time. Like more colors but time is weird. That's the kind of vibes that I always find myself drawn to.
Mhm.
Uh,
I love that we have pretty distinct opposites
yeah.
going around here, and it's because both are awesome. I
Mm-hmm.
love undead, and I really love fake creatures. The Feywild for me is like the coolest place to GM, especially because
Hmm.
of how characters' emotions will change the environment they are in, and the verbal contracts, it makes it for such a cool setting for a game. I
Uh-huh.
love it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I would
Mm.
love to do if I were like that would be a really fun setting. I would love it too much.
Well, wow, we've gone a little long, and that's okay. We still have a couple of questions to get to, though. So let's try and get to those real quick. But like we've just been letting
Having a
time run
great
away.
time. I love it so much.
I
I'm
agree.
having
I
a great
agree.
time.
I think you get the question from your hubby, right?
I do. Extirpate Fate asks, if you could pick one cantrip to have in real life, what would it be and why?
Hmm. One cantrip. I think thaumaturgy would be really nice. So for those who don't know, I'm a ballroom dance teacher. So and I often do ballroom dance classes for a lots of people or kids, and having that ability of just speaking out loud without like hurting myself, my voice, it's really cool, and
Mm-hmm.
it would be awesome to basically have uh, a way more portable version of a megaphone.
Ooh,
Yep.
Just
I love it.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
it. That's awesome. Druid.
Mage hand.
That was I go on. Why? I was going to say that was one of when I was thinking about this question. I was like, I was leaning towards that, and I was almost going to be. It's my second choice, so I want to hear why it's your first
Oh,
choice.
because I was just thinking how nice would it be for me to have mage hand so I can go grab that thing
Mm-hmm.
without me getting up out of my seat.
Yeah.
And like
Basically,
I'm
yep.
also short.
So yeah, you could reach higher places.
There would be a lot of uses for me for mage hand. And also like I just feel like I would use mage hand more than any other cantrip if I had it.
Hmm.
That's just
I think that's awesome, and it suits, and it's very. Both of you picked something very practical, and mine would be too. I settled on the ultimate practicality, prestidigitation, because the 5e version you can basically clean everything. Like
I
to me, the idea of magically being able to clean without actually having to clean is awesome.
Can I just tell you? So, Fate put that question in chat, and the swiftness that Pyromaniac said prestidigitation
I hate doing
was
laundry. Yeah.
so, I hate doing, was
Yep.
so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like he knew that was the question that was being asked in chat.
Literally 1 minute later. Yep. Like
Yeah, literally,
Mm-hmm.
he was so swift.
Yep. I mean, but think about it. You wouldn't just. It's not just clothing. You wouldn't have. It wouldn't just be about your laundry. Like you could clean your house that way. Like you'd
Yeah.
be the ultimate maid.
Yeah, but I
No.
can also do that with my mage hand.
Well, yeah, that's true. The mage hand would be slower, but it could be done. I agree. That is, she's got a good point.
So,
All right, last question from Lord Alex before we wrap up for tonight. What is one very niche TTRPG that you have tried and really enjoyed, and why?
Recently, I played Ten Candles.
Mm-hmm.
We were at a convention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we had just had dinner, and we were not supposed to play anything else. And a really great GM convinced us to try, and it was awesome. We were at Hard Rock Cafe and on in Porto, and we managed to talk with the staff, and they turned off like the lights of a room of Hard Rock,
Uh-huh.
and we lit the candles, and the vibe of it. It was so cool. We were all um like anxious about it, what was gonna happen. And 10 candles, it's really cool because of how the mechanics allow for a lot of control on the players of what happens and what it's true. So it was freaking cool to see. And there was a girl, like she had like lots of makeup, like goth vibe makeup, and it was like a lot of eyeshadow around the eyes, quite a bit. And so she was laughing so hard from a few things that we did that she just started crying like dark tears, and it was so creepy. I looked at her, and it was like, oh my fucking god, this is happening.
Wow.
You're crying black tears.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. The mood was there. Unfortunately, we had to stop mid session because they were closing, and I was just hooked. So this happened this last Saturday, and I'm gonna run that system like next Friday, not tomorrow, but next Friday. So yeah, I'm
That's a great one.
super excited for that system.
I love
That
that.
sounds
You said it was
awesome,
called
dude.
10 Candles?
Yeah,
Yeah,
10
I'm
candles.
gonna investigate that myself too. I'm curious too. Very cool. See, I knew tonight would be very special to such a degree that we've gone almost 2 hours. We normally only go 90 minutes, but that's
Oh,
because
God.
I loved chatting with you, Rove. We loved chatting with you. My goodness. I sure hope we get to see more of you. I know that you're busy, but you said things were dying down a little bit. But maybe they're also. I hope that I intend that your D&D stuff, and your other TTRPG stuff continues to grow, and that you explode and are amazing. And
Yeah, I certainly hope so. It was so fun. Thanks for having me. It went by so quickly. I
So
didn't
fast.
notice. It's just like it's crazy. It
Mm-hmm.
felt like 30 minutes or like maybe an hour went by.
Yeah.
It was so nice to talk with you.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I wish we could be there in person and give you a big hug.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I
Well,
maybe not now, but I do intend on playing D&D abroad in a few years, perhaps.
Right on.
Because,
Right on.
but yeah, I really want to go to the US, and if I do, I'm gonna play around your area.
Oh,
I
hell
don't
yeah.
know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
We'll make it
that would be
happen.
awesome.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah,
And who
I
knows?
really want.
We
Yeah.
Starkey and I want to travel to Europe, and the thing that we talked about earlier. Who knows?
Mhm.
So thank you, Rhovanndir. It's been an honor and a treat. Anything else to add, Druid?
we just adore you, Rhovanndir, and I just thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I know it's very, very late for you where you're at, and I'm just so thankful, and I'm just such a big fan, and I loved this conversation so much, and I'm sad it's over.
Me too. All right. See you later, buddy.
Rhovanndir.
See you.
Oh, I'm the bittersweet of the ending of it. It's like we could just talk for hours more, but with your cough and sickness and stuff, it's we got to wrap up. thank you for letting it go long tonight. And
Absolutely.
I know you wouldn't have done it otherwise. So speaking of, tomorrow night is the regular B&B, and we have another returning special guest. The ever incomparable and amazing Tantan Tater will be on tonight or tomorrow night. So super excited to get to chat with her again, and I'm super happy that we got to spend some time with Rhovanndir, and I intend we get to do it IRL at some point in the future.
Yes. It's gonna be
Maybe
so good.
he can come to a TwitchCon or something, or vice versa. So, at any rate, I guess that's all we got. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I love you guys.
Indeed. Oh, I guess we should say that there will be another LOL B&B next Thursday. Although going forward in the future, we're only going to have one Legacy of Loremasters per month instead of two. Just to keep it more special, keep the pacing better and a more special, a once a month kind of thing. So next week we have Insomnia Night RPG on. So that's going to be a very special treat as well. We've known him in the community a long time, so not quite as long as the incomparable Rhovanndir, but we've known him and he's been very helpful in many regards. So I'm ready to wrap this up. You ready too, Druid?
Yeah.
Okay, folks, thanks for coming to the show.
Please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below.
And if you're listening to the podcast,
Please rate and review the episode.
we're Bandwidth.
And Banter.
Thank you.
And good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye.